There's a new hotspot in the South China Sea you don't want to miss. We could be at a bigger risk of World War III here than in Taiwan. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. Mark your calendars, my friends. On Saturday, October 12th at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, I will be hosting a special live stream celebrating you for helping us reach 2 million subscribers. And you'll want to be there. There will be some big announcements about the future of the show, and Matt Shelley and I will do something we've never done before. Again, that's Saturday, October 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. See you there. Now on with the show. The Chinese Communist Party likes to pretend that China is a guardian of peace in the Asia Pacific who matches words with deeds. But really, they're just big bullies. And their bullying could very well lead to the next world war. They're guardians of peace the same way that Captain Morgan is a guardian of sobriety. Their favorite playground is the South China Sea, which they claim entirely as their own, despite the fact that other nations have internationally recognized exclusive economic zones there. Take the Philippines, for example. It's feeling China's might head-on. When the Chinese Coast Guard isn't assaulting Philippines Coast Guard boats with window-shattering hoses, they're often full-on ramming into them. They're essentially acting like pirates. Only instead of singing cool sea shanties, they're playing a Xi Jinping-thought audiobook. No wonder they're so cranky. All while gaslighting everyone else by blaming the Philippines for doing the very thing it does. All of this is part of China's gray zone warfare strategy, engaging in conflict that falls short of war. Blasting Filipino ships with water cannons may be aggressive, but it isn't quite enough to warrant an all-out declaration of war. Basically, China's playing the biggest game of I'm not hitting you of all time. If by not touching it means not launching missiles, anything else is A-OK. This sort of thing has been going on for quite some time in Filipino territorial waters, especially around the Spratly Islands. In particular, a major point of conflict has been the Second Thomas Shoal, where China has sent increasing numbers of ships to harass resupply missions to the Philippines base on the shoal, a beached World War II-era ship called the Sierra Madre. But lately, there's a new flashpoint, even closer to the Philippines, the Sabina Shoal. And things there are heating up. Over the past year, China's been ramping up the rate it confronts the Philippines. If you've been following this channel, you already know that, since I've covered it so many times it's beginning to feel like a violent reboot of Groundhog Day. Although China and the Philippines announced a deal aimed at stopping clashes at the Second Thomas Shoal, clashes elsewhere never stopped. Since April this year, the Philippines has deployed its largest Coast Guard ship, the BRP Teresa Magbanua, at the Sabina Shoal to counter Chinese aggression. But the odds were definitely stacked against it, both in size and numbers. China has repeatedly attacked the ship during its deployment. Not just harassed, attacked. The BRP Teresa Magbanua had to deal with rammings like this multiple times. Someone should probably tell China, A, these aren't bumper boats, and B, nobody even likes bumper boats. I joke, but this hole is the type of damage that takes a really, really long time and money to fix up. Meanwhile, ships trying to resupply the Teresa Magbanua have received the same treatment. CBS News saw firsthand what it was like to be one of those ships trying to do a resupply run to the Sabina Shoal.
Sirens raged. Crew members rushed between decks. When the Chinese pulled away, the Filipinos found a 3.5-foot hole. An officer told us we were lucky the damage was above the waterline.
There are, you can't see here in the dark, about 4 or 5 different Chinese boats surrounding us at the moment, and the crew tells me they can see on the radar that more are coming right now.
Since August, China's also prevented resupplies to the BRP Teresa Magbanua, which forced the crew to survive on rice porridge, rainwater, and the ship's air conditioning system for water for weeks. It came to the point where the ship had to leave the shoal last week so that they could give medical aid to the crew.
Earlier, the Philippine Coast Guard disclosed that BRP Teresa Magbanua was compelled to return to port as its crew suffered stomach pain, dehydration, and arthritis.
China forcing people into inhumane conditions? No, that's not the China I know. Although the BRP Teresa Magbanua is out, the Philippine Coast Guard says that it will continue to deploy vessels at Sabina Shoal. That didn't stop my favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, from spinning the story to make it look like the Philippines retreated, highlighting China's restraint and effective control. That's like a newspaper covering a burglar breaking into someone's house and beating them over the head with a frying pan, then congratulating their self-control for not using a knife. What a saint. The next Filipino ship to go to the Sabina Shoal will likely face the same problems that the BRP Teresa Magbanua faced, or even worse. There's a real chance that the U.S., which is obligated by treaty to come to the Philippines' defense, will get dragged into a war in that region. That could happen if, say, Chinese and Philippine ships clash and somebody dies because of it, or if China decides to start boarding ships. And with China's actions getting increasingly aggressive, the odds of something going wrong are getting pretty high. The Philippines needs U.S. support, and if the U.S. falters, bad things will happen. We saw how that played out during the Scarborough Shoal fiasco in 2012. Back then, the U.S., under then-President Obama, tried to de-escalate tensions in the South China Sea by getting both the Philippines and China to withdraw from the shoal. The Philippines did, but China didn't. Instead, it militarized the area and got away with it without any repercussions. That's when China realized it could get away with things like building artificial islands in the South China Sea and militarizing them because the U.S. would do nothing. So everyone should know what's at stake here. But as usual, no one seems to know how to deal with China. Recently, in order to de-escalate things, a delegation from the U.S. Department of Defense held military talks with China. Talks with China, oh boy. I wonder if this will be just like the last 290 times the U.S. tried talking things out. U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Chief Admiral Samuel Paparo spoke with General Wu Yanan, commander of China's Southern Theater Command, which oversees the South China Sea, via video conference earlier this month. Paparo urged the PLA to reconsider its use of dangerous, coercive, and potentially escalatory tactics in the South China Sea and beyond, and stressed the importance of continued talks to clarify intent and reduce the risk of misperception or miscalculation. Yes, we wouldn't want to have a misperception of what China is doing and think it's being aggressive. Some see Chinese participation in these kinds of meetings as good signs of progress because up until recently, Chinese representatives weren't talking to their counterparts in the U.S. at all. But that's just another weapon in China's arsenal. They decide when talks even happen and then pretend like the talks happening means they're de-escalating, right before ramming a Filipino ship at the Sabina Shoal. Because that's how bullies behave. They like to have complete control over the situation. And right now, everyone is letting them have it. And that needs to stop. To keep exposing the CCP like this, I need your help. Contribute to the show on the crowdfunding website patreon.com/China Uncensored. You can contribute however much you want, but you could even set a monthly limit, so you're only giving just $1 a month to the show. And as a thank you to everyone who contributes, I'll answer a question or comment from you at the end of these episodes. Today's comes from Yonman. Thank you so much for sticking on this topic, and thank you to your amazing crew. Honestly, I'm at a loss for words. It must have been very difficult to put this episode together. You know, I'm glad you brought this up, Yonman. He's talking about this recent episode, about the first known survivor of China's forced organ harvesting. He's a Falun Gong practitioner who was tortured in China, underwent a mysterious surgery, and after escaping to the U.S., was told by doctors he was missing part of his lung and liver. This is a huge story, and yet it's barely being covered. Why is that? In fact, here's another really curious thing. I just finished making a push to get 2 million subscribers on this channel. In about a month, I got 30,000 new subscribers and hit the goal. You'd think that would mean more views. However, since reaching 2 million subscribers, views have plummeted. This episode didn't even get 50,000 views on a channel with 2 million subscribers. Something very weird is going on. I'm curious, did YouTube notify you about this episode? Let me know in the comments. But I have a plan to get around YouTube's shadow banning, and I'll tell you all about it on the upcoming live stream on Saturday, October 12th at 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, because we have got to get these stories out there. Thank you for your comment and your support, Yonman. And you can click here to see this video about the organ harvesting survivor, or click that orange button to support the show on Patreon. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.